Hello, I'm Reverend Shahar. I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee, in the United States, and I'm here to talk to you about what I'm calling practical pagan parenting. I was introduced to a program called Active Parenting Now, which was developed by Dr. Michael Popkin. With almost 4 decades of collected data and the accolades of being put on the registry for proven practices, he has a record of establishing now in 17 different languages his program. Recently, it came to my attention that supplements had been made to his program. There was a Christian, Jewish, and Islamic supplement. It took me a little while to decide that a pagan one of some sort should exist. But I didn't want it to be specifically Wiccan because I felt like that would be cutting out a great deal of people, like the heathens and the Greek Reconstructionists and eclectic pagans. I did ask the director if I could put a supplement together which would address pagan parenting. I was told that if I did the legwork, did all of the typing, did all the research, did everything myself, and came with a finished product, he would consider it. At the time, his only reference to magic or witchcraft was watching the movie Wicker Man, and he obviously didn't want that to be anything that would touch his program. Gave him some online references and some books to read. And after that, he said he would be open to the supplement. So I am in the research and gathering portion of this supplement because I am not making it specifically Wiccan. It is my honor to be here asking you for your help. I have collected locally at Pagan Pride Day and Shadow Moot signatures of people who would be willing to fill out a survey, which would include questions like, what is your path? And what would you expect children being raised up in your craft to know? What specifically about parenting as a pagan do you need supports for? What are your trials and tribulations when it comes to putting a pagan child in public school? What happens if someone in your biological family decides that you're unfit? What resources will you have if they file for custody based on your religious beliefs? These are things that I had to struggle with and didn't have resources for. Also, I didn't have access to a vehicle which would put me into 17 different languages, which is one of the reasons now that I'm entering retirement from the business world, I'm putting all of my energy into this. I didn't have the resources. I had a few friends, but no one knew of lawyers who specifically dealt with custody cases based on religion. I was the first pagan that I knew of in my town. So it was very hard for me starting out to create traditions until I found a community to help me raise my son in. And after raising him 18 years in a pagan lifestyle, he thinks I should adopt more children. And I said, or I could just teach people the method that I learned and go from there. But the parenting I did with him was specifically Wiccan until he was about 16 years old, and he wanted to branch out from there. So my purpose for being here is to let you all know that there is something in the works that will have the potential to be global, that will not only be a proven practice in parenting, but a proven practice in parenting that also has a supplement dealing specifically with what modern pagans need today as a support system, whether it's someone who's new to the craft themselves and are planning a family, or someone who is new to the craft, has children, and has now decided to raise them in their tradition. Again, I did not want this to be Wicca specific, even though that is the most recognized form of paganism in the United States. I have friends who are not Wiccan, they're eclectic. I have friends who are heathen. I felt if I did only a Wiccan supplement, I wouldn't be doing our people around the world justice. But it is hard when you want to include everybody when you don't know everybody. I have very few heathen voices that want to participate. I have a lot of eclectic pagan voices who want to participate. And I really need to know what modern parents need today. My son is 32 years old. When I started using this program, uh, it was 25 years ago when I started. So a lot has progressed. We didn't have internet bullying in raising my son. Um, Dealing with school was really hard until I got a lawyer. So I guess I'd like to hear a little bit about what you would expect from that supplement. What traditions or appendices one could put in. I don't want to load the book with 900 titles for parents to read. So the more work that I can do to pare things down. Oh, Christy is in Nashville. That's wonderful. Okay. Oh, and that's wonderful. So we do have some people in Nashville that I haven't talked to yet. But I did Pagan Pride Day. I got over my fear of meeting new people and decided I needed to do the legwork, and went around to most of the booths and kind of trolled parents and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Are you interested?" My goal is to have the survey finished by the end of December. I don't want to bother people in the holiday seasons, because I think if I send it out before the holidays start, they're going to open the email and go, "Oh, yeah, I wanted to do that, but I don't have time right now." And it may be forgotten. So I've decided that it'll have to be right after the new year that the survey will go out. And it is my hope that by the end of the year, 2026, I will have the supplement ready to put into Dr. Popkins' hands for his take on it. I don't have access except online to those of you who have been pagan parents and are now possibly pagan grandparents, because that would be lovely to hear too, to hear from your children what they liked so much being raised in the faith that they've decided to raise their children in the faith as well. My son actually decided at 16 he wasn't Wiccan, he was Buddhist, and that he was going to stop going to full moon circles, which broke my heart a little bit. But men need to make their own decisions, and women need to make their own decisions, and we can't keep our children little all the time. So he does live his principles, and he does think I did a great job raising him. But that's only one child. And what I'd like to do is do for more children. I don't want to adopt anymore, but I would love to be able to have something out in the universe that this Congress and other organizations in paganisms can say that this is a work that reflects the time we're raising pagan children in now. Um, and we, like I said, we now have access to 17 languages, which I don't speak. But once the supplement is written, will be translated into all of those languages. So I've been given an hour to speak with you all. So I'm looking at the chat section. If you could start, I'd like to find out how far this will actually reach. Like if you could just put the country that you're watching this from, that would be great. I think the more countries I can show him that this is going to reach will actually help him make the decision to be yes to publish the parenting manual. And everybody who uh, fills out the questionnaire at the beginning of the year will also get updates. I'll update you when I have put together the outline. I will let you know when the first draft is ready. I can also let you know when it goes to the editors, whether he says yes or no. I don't want to waste anyone's time. So I will say that if you do want to participate in the survey, we are on Facebook, and it is Practical Pagan Parenting is the Facebook page. We also have Practical Pagan Parenting at gmail.com is my direct email address. So if you want to participate in the survey, you can send me a request, and that will go out again the first of the year. Some of the things that I want to include in the supplement are things like common core beliefs. Most pagan religions believe that we should be stewards of the earth. We should be taking care of the soil and the air and the water and the animals. That we should take no more from the earth than we need, and we should share with all of humanity the gifts that we have, that there should be no one hungry, no one homeless, those things. I think most religions, including the supplements they already have, we want to teach our children empathy and mercy and sympathy, because I see a lot of kids getting telephones. They're getting their first cell phones at 5 and 6 years old. And I know that technology is a great way to bring people together, but I also know that if you are in your phone and you have friends around you, you're not maintaining community, which a child needs. So the email again is practicalpaganparenting@gmail.com. So there are things that Greek Reconstructionists are going to believe that perhaps Wiccans won't. I will tell you up front, I'm not getting God specific. So I will, in the appendices, reference the name of popular gods and goddesses in each of the traditions, like I said, with a bibliography that parents can look at and choose books to read on those specific those pagan sects. But the core of the book is going to be mostly the things that we all have in common. And that is that we believe, most of us are polytheists, and we believe that we should not have to limit our practice of our spirituality to one specific deity, two specific deities, or any gender specific of deities. I also think that this kind of parenting method would also, the supplement could address the things like, Native Americans believe that there are twin spirits, and these are people who are born with a brain in one gender and a body of another. So addressing things like that, I think, definitely belong in this supplement, because that is one of the issues that everyone's dealing with, is to be as inclusive as possible, including to people who are gender nonconforming, or they are having body dysmorphia. I think that this kind of supplement can honor and help parents honor the path that their children are on, and help them feel included, where other religions and their supplements, when it comes to facing things like that, can be very anti inclusive. One of the things that Dr. Popkin is very good at in developing his program is that in all of the material, there is an air of tolerance. Like you have to be tolerant, you have to be accepting, you have to work well with others, whether they come from a different country, speak a different language, or their culture has beliefs that are contrary to your culture's beliefs. He has done a great job. And I know he's done a great job because my son is awesome and I raised him on this program. And I want to do something to give back to community. The wonderful community that I had around me to help me raise my son gave him strong, positive male role models that I didn't have in my family. And he got introduced to different traditions than mine. And he chose his own path at a point. I am not interested in shoving any specific religion in anyone's face, but I do know that as a whole, we are underrepresented and a lot of times misunderstood in our beliefs. And that can cause someone to not want to give us the time and courtesy of consideration. They consider us other. And because there are so many of us around the world, and we don't speak the same languages, it's hard to create a standard of spiritual education or a standard practice in raising your child up in your faith, or what to do when your child comes to you and says, this isn't for me. How you can handle perhaps even having someone who doesn't want anything to do with your spirituality at all, or any spirituality at all. This supplement will provide a section that says, my kid doesn't want to do anything, or my kid doesn't believe in my faith. How to open those conversations, how to come up with family values in the supplement that are worldwide. We don't want to murder people just because they don't like us or because they might hate us. I think everyone can agree, like, we don't want to murder anyone. In self-defense, we do have the right to defend ourselves and defend our lives. But I think one of the things the book will addresses is that we all believe and should believe that murder is wrong. And I think most people believe that stealing is wrong. And trying to come up with a list of core values that anyone in any pagan faith can say, yeah, I want kids to have that instilled in them. I have only I've only just moved to the Nashville area, and so I'm acquiring friends a little at a time. And to be awarded time with you all feels like I've won the lottery. The other reason to be here at the Pagan World Congress than in any other online place is because you are global. And hopefully, if this is translated into your language, the messages come across the way I hope they're perceived. I am by no means am an expert in parenting. I've raised one child, and I've done the play care tent for almost 2 decades in the pagan community that I raised my son in. So I was the person who brought all the games and the toys, and came up with things for the kids to do so the adults could go to the workshops that they wanted to go to. My affirmation for children in that community, the ones that started out as kids are now going away when they were teenagers, and now they're coming back into community because they remember things in the community that they had that they want for their children. And so I'm, like I said, I'm not a parenting expert, but I do know that raising the children in that community and having them go off for a while and do what they want to do with their lives, having them come back to make sure that the children that they have are raised pagan, or at least raised in the community, means we must have done something right if they wanted to come back. So I want to take the things that we did and offer that to other communities through this supplement. You know, how to include kids in festivals, at what age a child can be responsible for participating in ritual, and what to do if if your child um, has some learning disabilities. And we do actually have a part of the Active Parenting Now program, materials for people who have children who are on the spectrum, and advocating for someone who needs an IEP, which is a personal education plan. Might also, if your child doesn't need one of those, you would have something to bring when you start your child in kindergarten to give to the educators that are going to be educating your children, and say, this is the parenting method that I'm using. Here is a supplement of the things that we believe in. Here's literature for you to read, because we don't want there to be gaps in communication. My first case in point was when my son decided that he was going to get a dragon, and he was going to ask someone who worked with dragons to help him get his own dragon. And when he became old enough and responsible enough, that person said that they would help them do that. And I got a call from the school one day saying that they believed my son was having a break from reality. And I panicked. I had no clue what they were talking about. All I knew is they thought my son was having a mental health crisis, and I needed to address it immediately. And what it turned out was my son decided at recess that he was going to talk to his dragon, and he was doing it in Latin. So they told me that he had a psychotic break and was talking to people who weren't there. I didn't know what to do than to go in and say, I'm really sorry, but I don't think my son requires mental health services. My son has a pet dragon that you can't see and I can't see. But it's no different than you having your Lord and Savior that you talk to every night when you say your prayers, or every Sunday when you go to church. You don't see him, but you talk to him. And if it's okay for you not to see your Lord and Savior, I think we can allow a child not to talk to his dragon. And when they wanted to push for that, I did have to reach out, and I didn't want him ostracized. None of the other kids thought it was anything to worry about. He just said, I'm talking to my dragon. But one of the teachers decided that that meant he needed to go see a mental health counselor, and the school did force that on me. I did have to take him to a mental health practitioner. I didn't have resources. I didn't, there wasn't the Lady Liberty League or anything like that available for me. Or if it was available, I didn't know about it because I didn't have a resource to point me in that direction. I don't want this to happen to other kids. I think our children should be able to practice their faith even at school. I know there's a separation of church and state, but a wise woman once said, as long as there are tests in school, there will be prayer in school. Not to make light of the issue, but I wish at that point in time I had someone to stand next to me and say, you can't force this. You can't tell a child he's mentally ill because he has an invisible friend that happens to take the shape of a dragon. But took him to a mental health practitioner, and actually he ended up being diagnosed with genius syndrome. And as far as having an invisible friend, the therapist said that it was healthy, that he was able to have an inner dialogue, but he did it out loud and in Latin. And he at the time he was studying Latin. He thought he was going to be a doctor someday, so he knew he was going to have to learn it. So talking to his dragon in Latin was just something he did. Nobody around us thought anything bad about it. I wasn't prepared for the school to have an issue with it. So yeah, I can see this supplement being something that a parent might be able to give to a school and say, yeah, this is some information, because you now have pagans in your classroom, and these are some of the things that they might believe. And if you have questions, please call me. Don't hesitate to call me and say, we'd really like to know a little bit more so we know what is part of your life and what is something we should be looking out for that's not part, that could be something that needs professional help with. Educators have everything on their shoulders. They're underpaid, they're underappreciated. And unfortunately, unless you are homeschooling and you can have complete control over what's going to be said about cultures and history, you have to be on the defensive, especially when your son or daughter decides that their path is so important to them that they don't care. They want to wear their pentacle, or they want to wear their sigil to school without being harassed about it. The other thing that I had a problem with the school is being able to take pagan holidays off. I worked Christmas Day at work so other people could have Christmas Day off. But I always told employers that I would need the 21st or the 22nd off. And whether or not the school was shutting down that early, my son was going to be able to take Yule off as well. I only had one truant officer contact me the whole time. My son was in school, and it was actually in first grade, because the first grade teacher thought he was missing out too much because I was taking him out of school on the pagan holidays and the Christian holidays that they also celebrated or let school out for. And the truant officer came to the house and talked with me, and I explained to him, we have a First Amendment right to worship as we see fit. The Constitution says it. The school cannot force me to send my child on a holy day to school if I think we should be at home worshiping in our faith. So he said, well, thank you very much for your time. We weren't aware that these absenteeisms were on holy days. No one informed us of that. So even though I had told the school the reason for the absences were holy days in our faith, when they called the truant officer, they didn't relate that to him or anyone. So it took him coming to my house and hearing from me to understand that these were not me not wanting to send my child to school. This was not a shirk of his responsibilities. He still had to do his schoolwork and his homework, and these couldn't interfere in that. He still had to get good grades. He still had to pay attention in class. But on the days that we held sacred, I would not send him to school. And I think that's one of the first things also this supplement could help with is how to talk to your educators, who to talk to. Don't just go to the teacher, because the teacher might not talk to the principal about it. Or if you tell the principal about it, he may not talk to the superintendent about it. And if a set of parents who do not follow your path think that you are doing something wrong, you're going to need backup to be able to keep your son or daughter from being hassled at school. And I'm very sorry to say that that is what it's coming to. The divisiveness that's happening from the top of our government down is trickling down into our schools. And unfortunately, as parents, we're the ones who are going to bear the burden of bolstering our children up and giving them uh, a self-esteem level so high and so formidable that nothing that someone says to them at school is going to touch their spirit. I can say that my son had absolutely no problem when he had sleepovers. You know, yep, this, we're celebrating this is what we use this for. Please don't touch anything on that table. That's my mom's altar, and we just don't touch anything on it. If you want to ask her about it, you can, but please don't touch it. Or if he wanted to invite people over to celebrate with us, talking, I want so and so to come with us. Can you talk to their parents and see if they'll let them? Having conversations about our faith should be easy. We shouldn't feel like we have to stammer, um, or glass over what's going on. We should be able to say, hey, so me and my family, this is the calendar and the traditions that we use in our household, and my son would like your son to participate. Here's what we're going to be doing. Would you like to have your child experience that with us? I think conversation starters are a wonderful thing. I also think that before school or even before planning a child, it's nice to know that you have something to hold on to. So, like I said, I don't want this supplement to be specifically just for people who are currently raising children, but also who are thinking about um, having children and raising them in a faith. Um, the active parenting program itself, the core curriculum, has three parts. It's birth to 5, so the first 5 years, and then 5 to 12, and then 13 to 18. Um, each of the supplements I have not read entirely through, and I don't believe that everything that will be in the supplement is going to be an age-based thing, because some people may say, well, at 11 is when we're going to let our children start doing things in ritual, or at 12 is when we've decided to let the children choose their own path. I don't think age is going to be something that's going to be a big part of this particular supplement. They address that in the core program. My son actually, I think his first circle was actually when he was 3. We did a Yule with another family, and he and the other family's little girl had the role of the goddess and the newborn son. Um, and at 3, it was a very simple ritual, and all they did was represent the moon and the sun. And they understood that their roles were to be the moon and the sun. And they giggled and they laughed and they had a really great time doing it. I started on the pagan path with my son while he was in utero. I started singing songs and chants that I had heard at pagan gatherings, um, wrote some of my own. So while I was building him in my body, I was constantly resonating uh, through the 9 months the songs for the different holidays, names of the goddesses and names of the gods, washing dishes even, just reciting the names of the gods and goddesses that I knew while he was being created. To me, that was my way and my idea of etching that into his soul and his bones. Some people aren't going to be comfortable until their children are walking, talking, and can understand conversations before they have their faith enter into their lives. So I'm definitely not ever in this supplement going to say this is when you should have already done this with your child. I don't want to. I don't want to put any limits in regards to age. But those are the only things that I don't want to limit on. I don't want it to be age specific. I don't want it to be sect specific. So I do want to hear, if the more countries I can hear from, the more cultures I have access to, the more children this supplement is going to be able to help. And I say it's helping the children. I know it's a supplement for the parents. It's a tool for the parents, but it's the kids that are going to benefit. And with that in mind, that's why I'm doing the legwork. That's why I'm asking the questions. That's why I want this book, because I can't adopt everyone's kids. And even if I did, they would only have access to what I did with my child. And I want people who do their own versions of magic in their own culture, um, not to be called out, but to be included. If I don't know your tradition and I don't know the word for your tradition, then I am limited in what I can offer people in your country who are in your culture. Right now, it's only 17 languages. I'd like to see that go up. And one of the things that I thought this supplement could also do is if we had enough parents in a culture clamoring for it to be uh, translated into their language, that's another way we could push the supplement out to people and to get this program into other cultures. I know that Dr. Popkin would love to have every country and every language, um, but even he has to limit it to the ones who are clamoring most for it. So if we put a supplement out, but nobody requests it or nobody orders it, um, then it doesn't get out to anyone. So if you, like I said, if you are interested in having a say or a voice in the room, um, even if you don't speak English, I'm sure we can use Google Translate, or we can find someone to translate at least the survey into your language. Or if you know someone in a different culture who speaks another language, absolutely send along the email. I will do my best to be on top of emails. Like I said, I'm pretty much retired from doing anything in the business world, and this is my baby for right now. I like I said, I do want to close it out at a year. So when I release the survey in January, I'm hoping to get most of the responses in within a 3-month period, so that I have time for the rest of the year to put sections together, to make a list of concerns, to make those list of books. And don't hesitate if the book is not in English. If you have a book that you use for your rituals with your kids, or that you are using to share ritual with your children, recommend it. I may not speak the language, but like I said, I will find someone to help me. If it's not translated into English yet, maybe this can be a way to do it. The crux of my, or the end of my spear in this war is to make sure that we are not underserved when it comes to having support in parenting with our faiths. And it's not path dependent. It started out, it was only going to be Wicca, but I didn't feel comfortable, again, with it just being Wiccan. There's too many people it would leave out. It cannot address every nuance of every religion that we are going to include in the book. So we're hoping to have, like I said, hoping to create a survey that will give us the most needed resources that people are asking for. And also to identify languages that it needs to be in, whether it's already a language the core program is translated into. It does take a community. I cannot do it alone. And I'm hoping that all of you would find it in your heart to help me get this into the world. Does anyone have, we only have about 16 or 17 minutes left. If you have some questions that you would like to ask, if you put them in the chat, I'll take this time to answer as many as I can. Chrissy, thank you very much. I'm sorry that my son and I had that experience too. But it made me a better pagan and a better parent to have these situations happen. Let's see. I'm not seeing any questions come through. One of the other things that I think might also be well is if you have songbooks, or if you have started writing songs for your children, one of the best ways to include children in rituals is with chants and song. And if your culture has chants and songs for your kids in the holidays that they celebrate, please send those along too, because those are the things that we do want to include as well. And it might be a song that inspires a parent to say, "Oh, I want to do songs with my kids for the holidays." And so having a resource for songs and other things like arts and craft things that you do, we do want to have a section for things that you can do with your children to celebrate the holidays. If you've never been artsy or craftsy, we do want to have a segment on how to find natural resources to make celebrating your faith fun for kids of all ages. I do know that teenagers go through a period where they don't want to do anything with mom and dad because it's not cool. But like I said, Years later, I'm seeing the children that were brought up with community coming back to community when it's time for them to start their own families. So um, I will say again that it is practical pagan parenting at gmail.com. And practical pagan parenting is also on Facebook. And that is, we don't, at this time, we do not have plans to do Instagram or TikTok. I only have limited time myself. Um, and I'm dedicating it all to the supplement at this time. So even though I need to reach out to you all virtually, it will be by the Facebook page and the email that I do that. We did purchase a Zoom package, but the pagan parenting classes with the added supplement will not be taught. The core program will be available in January for anyone who wants the core parenting program that I used to raise my son in. So I will be doing those classes, but I will not be adding anything pagan to those classes until after the supplement has been accepted by the program. I don't want to lose my access to the program by altering it without Dr. Popkins' approval of what I'm doing with his program. And I hope you all understand that. If you are interested in the core programming, the dates that those will start will be put on Facebook, and also the Active Parenting Publishers website will also include the dates of those classes. We do have, like I said, the program in 17 different languages. So if you do not speak English fluently and you would like it to take classes in your own languages, you can go to the Active Parenting Publishers website, and they can find you a certified facilitator who speaks your language so that you can have access to that course. So I do think that having a proven practice to parent with, and after using it with my own son and reaping the benefits of that, I firmly do believe that it is one of the best parenting programs out there. And in the United States, there's a lot of family courts who, when they tell people they have to take a parenting class, sometimes by name will say you need to sign up for an Active Parenting Now parenting program before you can get your children back from foster care or state custody. Or there's a lot of people who are also incarcerated that need parenting classes before they can reestablish connection with their children. And a lot of the state penitentiaries lean towards the Active Parenting Now program. So the core books are at Active Parenting Publishing, so that if you want to get access to that before January, before the course, before I'm starting to teach those courses again, by all means, reach out and get the books. And if you have any questions, you can email me your questions, and I will get back to you in a timely manner, so that you can decide whether you'd like to start taking the classes in January or if you just want the literature. I'm a very proactive person, so I want to help you out in any way. And if you, like I said, if you know people you think would love to have a voice in the room, share my information. I will get back to everyone who contacts me. I will not leave anyone out. The people that I already have email addresses from Pagan, Pride Day, and Shadow Moot will be the first people to get the surveys, only because I'm doing everything in a first come, first serve basis. So the mailing list will be them. but if you start to send me your information, you will be added to the list. So, like I said, if you contact me after the first of the year, it may be a little bit slower to get you the survey because, like I said, I'm hoping to launch the survey January 1st, and hoping to get as many answers back in the first 90 days as possible. If you are going to be visiting the Nashville area anytime soon and you would like to meet and discuss this, I can make myself available for that. We did just purchase Zoom, so I'm just learning that, so I won't be doing any Zoom conferences yet. And most likely the first things I do with the Zoom account are the parenting classes. Unless you think that there's someone who absolutely needs to speak with me and it only can happen via Zoom, I'm sure we can figure out a way to do that. So I want to thank you all so very much for your time and your consideration. This is the biggest thing I have ever tried to do for community, and I'm hoping that with your support, we can grow trees under which the shade we shall not share. So again, I'm Reverend Llalla Shahar, and I am developing the practical parenting supplement to the Active Parenting Now parenting program. Thank you so much. Thank you, Donald. It was very much my pleasure. It really was. And I want to thank my host. Thank you so much. And also uh, for Mary for getting me in touch with all of you and giving me this opportunity. It means a great deal.
And thank you.
Thank you.